But now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught
I can tell you that I've
my
been bathed in nothing but love.
to
And that is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. So thank you so much.
grace.
You may clap. You may clap for that, but you may also clap because you might like my dress. Oh, God, I'm so vain, but I love it. Thank you so much. You know, every time I go to church, I carry my mother with me. Now, I'm a heathen of note. There's a story to this which might come a little bit later on to some people that know me for many years. But I've had some of the most beautiful, life-changing experiences in a church. And even though I'm here under false pretenses, so to speak, because I'm not really a member of the flock anymore, because I've done other things in my life, the space always does something to me. It makes me feel a particular way and a certain type of connection that no matter how I define myself in my life and the journeys and the destinations my life might take me to, the church represents something still so beautiful, so deep, so sacred and so grounding for me. Because I think it was beneath the altar and under the crucifix that I've had some of the most amazing life experiences. So it's really lovely to be back here. And thank you so much to so many of you who turned out tonight. This is a wonderful opening. And I know that many of you have traveled from the furthest reaches of the African continent to be with us. So again, thank you. Thank you so much on behalf of all the organizers for being with us this evening. I want to start, oh, by the way, who am I? Because you're thinking, she's lovely, but who is she? My name is Imandra Petty. And I don't want to be like the person at the airport. Somebody please tell this woman who she is. But maybe you do know me. If you've watched TV, I've done the news for many years on Newsnight with Jeremy Maggs. I have a radio show, an award-winning radio show, by the way. And I published a book last year, which I think went down well. It was kind of a bestseller. But, so I do these things from time to time, which is really nice. But the most important thing about that role and those roles and why I'm here tonight is that it has taken me to places that maybe my ordinary experience wouldn't have. It is to connect with people in their moments of suffering, even in their moments of joy. So that pendulum swing between the ecstasy and agony of life, I think has really left an imprint on me. And I think it echoes very nicely with a lot of your experiences in the room, a lot of the experiences in our country, and a lot of experiences around the globe. So I want to start with a quote by someone you probably know really well, and that's Audre Lorde. And by the way, she wrote this in a book called The Master's House in 1984. So just listen carefully to what she had to say. For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. Racism and homophobia are real conditions of all our lives in this place and time. I urge each of us here to reach down into that deep place of knowledge inside herself and touch that terror and loathing of any difference that lives there. See whose face it wears. Then the personal as the political can begin to illuminate all of our choices. It's been more than 30 years since Audre Lorde penned those words, and I think it is still a fitting reflection with which to continue this conversation in this space and in this time in our history, because the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Who is the master? What are the tools? Whose house? I'm so struck that as society, or the ones who hold the power to shape and corral agency, continue to apply the pressures of judgment and force, shape the design of what is right and what is not right, what fits and what doesn't. The innocent suffer, and sometimes in silence, sometimes in public, sometimes achingly behind what's considered normal, while dying invisible deaths inside. Or dying brutally, as some parents in this room know, of their own children, on callous streets, that attempt to scour difference from their skins, gouge it from their eyes, excise it from their most private places. Our country, our society, should mourn every single day for every shape of difference that it stamps underfoot. For in doing so, it subtracts from what it means to be human at all. Something has to change, because ever since the encouraging signs of progress and some of the remarkable shifts, and many of you in this room might have been there for that moment back in April 2016, that dialogue between a lot of the organizations represented here, there has been an alarming resurgence of homophobia and backlash, particularly divisions about how to deal with change in our most revered and sacred spaces, our churches, the altar of mercy, of supreme enlightenment, of understanding and acceptance. So as we gather on this hallowed piece of sacred ground, let us reflect deeply on the role that we have to occupy and the course we have to traverse. So tonight, I don't know how you arrived here, in your circumstance, in your experience. I invite you to listen with an open heart and a lush mind, to engage honestly and thoughtfully. Let us not say we kicked off this program over the next few days and all we got was hot air and some sea sand between our toes. So I'd like to officially, well, semi-officially, because somebody more important than me is going to officially welcome you, but let's kick off the opening reception of Breaking Through the Backlash in what we hope will be a transformative encounter between the LGBTIQA+ communities and churches in South Africa. To all of our participants who came from far and wide, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to invite a beloved friend of mine, Dina Daniels, who's also a friend of Diakonia, to lead us in the hymn, because my singing voice sucks. I mean, I don't know if you think that this is an amazing voice. Okay, it's not bad, but I don't want to steal the light from Dina, so Dina, please come up and lead us in our opening hymn. And here's an interesting story. Years and years ago, when I was becoming Muslim and I was like a crazy person traveling to other countries to go do strange things, I ran into Dina at this very venue, the Diakonia Center. And she said to me, "Iman, do you even know what Quran means?" And I was like, yeah, but I didn't. And we have sung Nobody Gets Too Much Heaven No More in harmony together. So it's lovely to see you again. And please lead us in the opening hymn.
Please stand and take up the sheet of paper. Who go wherever you lead, may find in you a life fulfilled. It was your joy to call them blessed, who poor in spirit choose to be, and find themselves on earth possess the gentlest of all they see, and blessed to all those who mourn the merciful, the pure of heart, and those by thirst and hunger torn, that justice hold its rightful part. Your blessing, God, embraces to all those who strive, that peace may reign. Your right
Dina, you still got it, girl. That was so beautiful. It really does transport you into a time, I think, of such purity and connection with God. And I do believe that wherever we are in our lives, we still claim that connection. So I think let's have a moment for pause as we bring the Spirit. You already have done that, Dina, but welcome the Spirit more into this gathering. And I'd like to welcome Bishop Reuben Phillip. And what a delight to meet Bishop, who told me such wonderful things as he welcomed myself and others to this venue. So I really want to thank you for your kindness and your generosity and for being available to us this evening. Bishop Reuben Phillip is the former chair of the Diakonia Council of Churches. He'll deliver the opening prayer. The current chair, as you know, the Reverend Musa Zondi, is not well tonight, so I'm sure that we can pray for his recovery as well.
Let's begin our time of prayer with the silence. Just be quiet before God as we individually invite God into our midst, into our lives, into our conversations, into our thought. And then I'll conclude with a prayer. Creator God, you have made all things beautifully and in your image. As we lift up the diversity of your creation, teach us to love and embrace people of all sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Let us, each and all, irrespective of race or class or gender or sexual orientation, celebrate our unity as human persons created in your image and likeness. We commit to you our time together, our conversations in the plenary or over a meal. We pray that we may understand your mind for each of us at this time. We take the opportunity to lift up our country to you with its many struggles. We pray that you will have your hand upon us and lead us to that place where you want us to be, a place where we truly celebrate the rich diversity of the human family. So receive us this day as we commit ourselves to you, and grant that your Spirit may guide us, that we may honor your name and be pleasing to you in all that we undertake to say and do. We offer these our prayers in the name of him who taught us to pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop. It is customary to clap after someone has done something or prayed. You know, I really want you to be free in this space. I want you to feel relaxed. I want you to feel open. I want you to feel welcome, because that's what it's designed to do. And I know it's very difficult when you're meeting people for the first time and you're in a setting and you're not quite sure what to expect. This really is that moment for you to own the space, to speak openly, freely, respectfully, and lovingly, but to speak. And I hope also after our keynote speaker has addressed us and we open up with a Q&A, that you'll be able to speak openly, honestly, and freely about the things that really affect us. You're lucky to be in this room. I think we all are. There are so many others who simply could not, through circumstance, through a myriad other reasons. And so it is such a privilege that we are all gathered in this particular place, each one of us. There is a reason that you are here, not someone else, not a friend or somebody else who was invited and couldn't make it, but you. And I really believe in that intentionality and that purpose. You feeling a bit more comfortable? Yeah? I'm going to do a little quick clap off. This side of the room, are you really comfortable? We're going to see who's going to clap the loudest. Are you really comfortable and happy to be in this space tonight? Hallelujah! Now, I don't know because we've got the bishops and the reverends on this side. Are you really happy to be here tonight? You know what? I think it's a tie. So give yourselves another round of applause. Okay. So I'm going to open the way for our next speaker, Ms. Nomabelu Mvambo Dandala, who's the Executive Director of the Diakonia Council of Churches. Now, you have walked a long journey with this particular institution, but it's a church that is renowned for its history of social justice, and I think it's been a fitting partner and friend in the heat of what we face as a community. And she will officially welcome you. So give her a great big Durban welcome.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? No? Hi, how's it now? Much better? Thank you. Sanbonan, Dumelang, Huyenant. I was hoping to get the other languages, but I didn't get time, so forgive me. The other languages outside of our country, but I didn't get time. Friends and colleagues, indeed, it is a great honor and privilege for me to welcome you to our space, Diakonia Center, a space which has been in existence for 43 years. This is a space that played a vital role in birthing our constitutional democracy. This is a space that continues to promote social justice in the post-1994 era. This is a space, regardless of facing challenges, that is a home for transformative conversations in pursuit of social justice. There is a sense in which the other foundation could not have chosen any other better space and relevant space than this very, very venue. I have no doubt in my mind that the founder of our organization, Archbishop Dennis Haley, after whom this hall is named after, it's called the Dennis Haley Hall. I also have no doubt that our pioneer director, Paddy Carney, the two embodiments of ecumenism, interfaith, and social justice. I have no doubt that they are looking at us right now and smiling, because this is what they were working for, because the social justice issues post-1994 are compelling us to give attention to issues such as the LGBTI cause. I'm also proud that we were able to sing the Diakonia hymn, which was written by the one and only founder of our organization, in keeping with his legacy. I'm also pleased to share with you that this very same venue, Diakonia Center, is a space in the true sense of the word, a conducive space which is accommodative of the LGBTI community, because some of the churches that are using these facilities on Sundays is a church which is made up of LGBTIs because they find themselves not included, not welcomed in our traditional churches. This particular church that I'm referring to has been using this building for years. Of course, that didn't go down well in our circles because some were raising eyebrows and not feeling comfortable about that. But in pursuit of social justice, we continue to provide that space for that particular church. We are gathered here, many of us, because we believe and committed to the LGBTI cause. And of course, advocating for freedom and inclusion. But I'm also pleased to say some of us here, when we were inviting people to, we cast the net wide to include those who are not yet for the cause. So I'm hoping that this space, this reception will challenge them, will give them a lot of food for thought so that they can begin to come to grips with the fact that this is a reality. It's a reality in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces, but most of the time we sweep it under the carpet. Yet, as people made in the image of God, the Creator loves all of us, regardless of our diversity. Considering that the Creator, therefore, is most present where life is more intense, our Creator is also in our midst. Therefore, may we be re-energized for breaking through the backlash by strengthening our advocacy efforts for freedom and inclusion so that the fullness of life is enjoyed by all as envisaged by God. Indeed, the most important gift that we as people of faith can give to the world is to be co-creators with God to ensure that justice prevails. So enjoy this space. As our moderator said, indeed, own it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those generous words, which affirm, as you have said, the legacy that this institution has provided to the community. Our next speaker is from the organization, the Durban Lesbian and Gay Center. You know this better than I, one of the longest standing LGBTIQA+ organizations in the country, an institutional pillar of activism and support. And so it gives me great pleasure to welcome its chair, Professor Thabo Msibi, who also happens to be the Dean of the School of Education at KwaZulu-Natal. Darling, I feel like I need to say it like that.
Thank you, Iman, for that very generous welcome. Colleagues, it's wonderful actually to see so many familiar faces. I must admit I'm experiencing some cognitive dissonance at this moment because part of me used to be heavily involved in the church, and I was one of those people who were pushed out. So I must admit that I sit here with a split soul, so to speak, perhaps. Part of me wants to delight in being in the presence of fellow believers. Another part wants to resist. But anyway, let me let me get going with this very brief welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we are excited as the Durban Gay and Lesbian Center, the LGBTI Center, to be part of the co-hosts of this event. We think that this is an important conversation in the continent, especially given the reports that we've been seeing on television, reading about in print, and in other forms of media that actually suggests that there is a backlash that is happening. We have seen a recently released report from Reuters that is suggesting that, in fact, there is an increment of the number of people applying to be asylum seekers or refugees in different parts of the continent and indeed in other parts of the world because of their identity. That particular report entitled A Precarious Heaven, written by Nita Beha and Sally Hayden, suggests that there is a serious concern that we have to have about LGBT rights in the continent. It speaks of a candidate or an individual by the name of Joe, whose dad was murdered in Uganda because he was gay. Joe was forced to then leave because he was beaten up, attacked in a public toilet, and was sent SMSs day in, day out saying, "You're going to be next." He moves on to Kenya and finds in Kenya that he can't get any sense of identity within the country. He can't get employment, he can't get any opportunities because he is actually an asylum seeker, and he gets into sex work. He doesn't know whether to return back home or remain in Kenya. So you return home or be killed, or you remain in a space where you are not actually recognized as an individual. And this is not just a story of one person, right? It's a story that many of us are experiencing day in, day out. It is our lives as LGBT identifying individuals in this very country. Despite our very progressive constitution, we know that our people, our brothers and sisters, constantly live in fear of being attacked, of being murdered, of being marginalized. And I think at the very heart of this marginalization has been, unfortunately, the church. And so it is quite important, and I'm quite excited that this conversation is happening in a platform that actually has fought for social justice and is a religious organization or religious body, because it is when people or institutions like Diakonia speak out, or like churches across the continent speak out, that we are able to advance the cause of social justice. I also do want to say that actually as a community, we're also complicit in the marginalization of our brothers and sisters who come to this country in search for refugee, in search for asylum. And we are the ones who actually discriminate against them, yet we experience the very same marginalization. We know what it's like, but we actually advance that particular cause of exclusion and marginalization. And I think this is an important conversation that as a community, as a country, as a region, we must have. How do we speak in a very concrete way against the backlash that we're seeing emerging in the continent? How do we actually muster our courage and muster the various resources that we have to be able to fight back in a way that is going to be comprehensive and in a way that is going to bring about real change? We're not interested in people coming outside this continent and telling us what to do. The resources lie within us as a community, as a nation, and as Africans. We have to bring our own solutions as a continent, and we must be able to address this situation head on. So as a center, we are excited that we've been given an opportunity to engage and partner with Diakonia and other foundations. And as Iman has already said, we have been involved in this work for decades. And so for us, it's a natural fit. It's something that we believe we ought to do and we ought to advance, because the lives of our people are at risk. We have a duty to respond in a concrete way. Welcome to Durban. Thank you so much.
Woo! Yeah, somehow I think it must be right to Amandla in a church. Amandla! I don't know what to say after that, but I just know that line. I'm just joking. I mean, that is incredible. And I think in some ways you have lifted the bandage on the wound in this discourse. And that really sets the scene for the conversation over the next few days. So really, really wonderful hearing from you. I want to bring our next speaker to you, who is responsible for bringing me to you. So I hope that wasn't a bad idea on Neville's part. But Neville Gabriel is the Chief Executive Officer of the Other Foundation. Now, they were founded in 2015. And since then, I know through being very connected to their network, they've traveled far and wide, initiating partnerships and collaboration, not only in social justice, but also in entrepreneurship and in business. Because it is about building an African voice, not one that is, kind of projected onto us here in Africa, or, we're not given the words from another person's script to read. We are defining that script for ourselves as Africans. And this is happening in, as you say, what is an incendiary and deeply divisive space. So please give Neville Gabriel a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Iman. It's wonderful to see so many people who I carry in my heart and to welcome you to Durban. I can say that because this is home. I feel at home. I was shaped by Diakonia, the church's bishop, and all of you. And it's just wonderful to look around and see our movements are growing. And that is the one direction that we're going to continue on. And it's just really, really good to be in this place that really shaped so many of us. We want to be home. We want to come home. And let me say, this is a political struggle, but it's also very personal. And so I want to share maybe some personal things. Iman, it's wonderful to have you here. You carry us.
Thank you.
I first met Iman in, actually she may not remember.
Don't tell the truth about where we met.
We met at the launch of a solar energy plant outside Kimberley. And the first thing she said to me was, I'm from Durban. So it's wonderful to bring you home as well.
I'm so glad to be
It's
back.
really,
Thank you.
really good. I feel like I know Dr. Busak very, very closely. In fact, in the early 90s, when I was at the University of Cape Town, I studied with your daughter, Professor Busak, and she spoke so highly of you as her father that I feel like I know you very well. And I know that many people in this room are inspired by all that you do and all that you've been saying. We need those voices publicly. I know I stand between you and hearing Dr. Busak, so I'm not going to say many other words, except to say that I hope this convening is successful, and I invite you all to participate fully as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Neville. I thought for a moment that you might cry, and the best piece of advice I ever got from a makeup artist of mine was, listen, darling, if you're going to cry, cry like this. Let the tears go out that way so your makeup stays intact, you know. And it's a great television trick because there are lots of times you got really emotional on camera.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound